Forgive yourself to find true success on today's Oblyron Divination. Greetings everyone, I am Oblyron, Lord of the Underworld and consort to the most lovely Hecate. Thank you for joining me on today's Elemental Synastry Reading. It is a divination technique which was bestowed upon me by the goddess upon our sacred marriage. It involves the tarot, the 5 elements, and astrology. So this is a collective reading, and take what resonates and discard what doesn't. And as always, these types of readings should be used to confirm what you already intuitively know and not meant to be taken as literal advice. So, what is happening in the element of spirit, love? Alright, we got the inverted 8 of Cups. So, in spirit, we are experiencing something which, it's like a decision is being made. It is time to essentially move on. And we are basically refusing to move on. We're coming to this point where we're actually being held back a little bit, and we need to really analyze and understand what is happening within ourselves that we are not wanting to move on. We need to understand within ourselves and what spirit is trying to tell us in saying, okay, you know, you've been getting those signs, you've been getting all of those angel numbers or whatever have been coming to you. So what is happening? What is still keeping us back? All right, let's see what the astrology die have to say. Okay, so we have Mars in Pisces in the 8th house. Okay. And again, the first element that we have is spirit, which is represented by the bell, and all of the other elements that come into play are all going to reflect back to what's happening in spirit. So, Mars in Pisces in the 8th house. I roll the first time for the house, and I roll the second time for the decan. Alright, 10. So we have the third decan of Pisces coming up, which is essentially joy. It's essentially having it all. And and also it's represented by the 10 of Cups. So that 10 of Cups card is a very powerful decan within Pisces. And again, we have the 8 of Cups, which is the first decan of Pisces, and then we have this third decan of Pisces popping up as well with the astrology die. So yeah, that's the Lord of perfected success. And essentially it's saying that, yeah, it's essentially saying that joy, that harmony, everything that we have is right there. It's right there, but we need to be able to move on from that. And again, with this 8 of Cups, this inverted 8 of Cups, refusing to let us go, we have to understand, well, why are we refusing to let go of those things when we know that so much better is waiting for us, when we know that basically, you know, the world can be our oyster? What are those things that are holding us back? So this Mars right here is essentially telling us to look within ourselves, to discover our inner warrior, to say, hey, you matter as an individual. You matter mostly to yourself, and you need to take care of yourself before anything else. A lot of times we may feel that that we have to take care of other people before ourselves, and we give and we give to other people. However, at the end of the day, if you're not doing what you need for yourself, essentially, you're going to be drained. And okay, this Scorpio energy, since it's in the 8th house, has to deal with, let's say, issues of transformation, issues of death. It could also even mean, the 8th house can also even mean the bedroom. So this could possibly deal with, for some, a relationship. It could deal for some, let's say, perhaps a bad divorce or a bad relationship, a bad breakup. And that X is probably, or I should say, keeping that X on your mind is one of those things which could be holding a person back from going into the future. That Scorpio energy also has to deal a lot with change and transformation. And again, here we have this refusal to move on, mostly because of not being able to perhaps accept that change or transformation. But again, if that transformation can be accepted, if those issues can be dealt with internally, then that joy and that perfected success will be on the other side of it. Okay, let's move along. So the next element we have is the element of fire, which is represented by the wand. Okay, so what is affecting the element of fire? Fire can be our drives and ambitions, perhaps related to some kind of career and whatnot. All right, let's see what's happening in the element of fire. Inverted Queen of Wands. Okay, there we go. So yeah, it's starting to really kind of shape up a little bit. So that inverted Queen of Wands could deal with us not accepting the shadow aspects of our feminine psyche. So in men, it could be possibly not integrating the anima, not integrating that shadow psyche. In women, it could be not dealing with what's happening internally. And when we don't deal with those feminine aspects of ourselves, we can really begin to lose a lot of our focus. We could really begin to lose a lot of our empathy, a lot of our understanding. We can start to really become, let's say, maybe a little bit too proud of ourselves, a little bit too boisterous. And all of those things would definitely hold us back when it comes to our drives and ambitions. Excuse me for a moment. So yeah, all of that could essentially be thwarting our fire, be making it so that we are indecisive in where we want to go. The wand is a very focused energy, and when we don't have the ability to focus, that can obviously put a hindrance on it. And of course, I would tie back into the fact that of what Spirit is trying to tell us about moving on, but not necessarily being able to do that. Here we have that Mars placement. Again, it's saying, look within yourself, become that warrior that you need to be. Redirect that fire and deal with those feminine issues. Deal with that feminine energy within the self. Okay, what do the astrology die have to say? So it usually recommends an outcome or perhaps advice. Okay, so we have Jupiter in Libra in the 3rd house. All right, let's move this around. right, which decan of Libra are we in? We are in the middle decan of Libra. Okay. So, yeah. All right. So we're stuck in the middle decan of Libra, which is essentially the Lord of Sorrow. And yeah, it would suggest that we are being held in check by the pain of the past. The Lord of Sorrow is ruled by Saturn, and again, many people sort of don't want to learn the lessons of Saturn. They don't want to take the discipline to really say, hey, what is happening within myself? What are the lessons that I really need to learn? And that would make sense that if we're not learning those lessons, that feminine energy would come to a sort of standstill. You know, we'd probably be lost in the quagmire of that energy. And with it having, well, it's not only in the third house, which is ruled by Gemini, but it's also Libra as well. So definitely it has to deal with a lot of issues regarding our relationships. Not only in our relationships to our significant others, but it can also be the relationships to family and siblings. And so, yeah, if we do not deal with our issues, especially with the people who are supposed to be closest to us, then it would make sense that we would have this delay in our drives and ambitions. The only way to really proceed forward is to really get our acts together, to really say, where am I accountable in my life? Where am I going wrong? Where am I not in service, not only to myself, but also to others? Those are very hard questions to ask. And, we can, again, like how I was saying with the whole pride issue coming up, we could be as proud as we want, we could feel as justified as we want, but there's also a saying called strong and wrong. And it takes really being knocked down by life to really understand that saying. So yeah, if we do not deal with our issues, we will find our own drives and ambitions coming to a standstill. Let's see, I think we might have... let's see, we may have... No, we don't. We almost have an inconjunct here, but not quite. Okay. Alright, let's move right along. So the next element is air, which is represented by the swords. Has to deal with our communication, our education, again, how we relate to others. So what's happening in the element of air, love? All right. The Knight of Wands. Okay. So essentially, it's saying that, yeah, okay, so it would make sense, especially with all this air and Gemini energy right here. So in the element of air, it means that something, a type of change is headed our way. And yeah, that would make sense. We have the wand here, which is being affected by all this air element over here with the house and the astrology die, and we have the air element being affected by the wands. So it's some type of new endeavor which we probably should start into. Maybe for some it could be really going in and reflecting upon ourselves, as I said within this past one. Maybe we've gotten to the point to where we realize, okay, I can't run from myself anymore, so now I have to start really looking and really educating myself on what I need to do within myself to change myself and ultimately to change the world around me. Okay, excellent advice, love. What do the astrology die have to say? So we have the moon in Scorpio in the 4th house. Wow, okay. Okay, let me line this up real quick. Let's re-roll for the decan. 12, the last decan. Okay, so the last decan of Scorpio is called the Lord of Illusionary Success. Or it could also, in the tarot, could be referred to as sort of the daydreamer card. Essentially what's happening here, though, is that the veil is starting to be lifted upon really that self-reflection and that realization. Like I was saying, we know we can't run from ourselves anymore. We know that there has to be some sort of new knowledge or new communication coming in. And we know that now it's time. I mean, here, we have the moon in Scorpio. And again, we have Scorpio over here too. But that moon, that's really about really searching those deep emotions, really searching what has been hidden from us, searching, and especially with it tied in with that Scorpio energy, this is really some deep and profound emotions and deep and profound change that needs to happen within ourselves. And that 3rd decan of Scorpio, again, the Lord of Illusionary Success, means that we can't lie to ourselves anymore. And with it being in the 4th house, which is essentially the home, that's really heavily family oriented, really. And it makes sense because here we have the fire, which is being hindered, and we have Libra and Gemini energy here, which has to deal with so many of our interpersonal relationships, so much of and also family. And then we have this deep, profound Cancerian energy, which is telling us to also look within our familial ties. So it's not only learning how to communicate better to the people who matter to us in our lives, but it's also doing the serious, in-depth, emotional work within ourselves to be able to release this energy, to release what is holding us back. Why are we refusing to leave? It's starting to seem very much that the only person holding us back right now is ourselves. And of course that would make sense with this Mars energy right here. But again, the whole message is saying that once that transformation and once that realization has been dealt with, then we will become the Lord of perfected success. We will have what we want. Again, we're just standing in our own way. Okay, let's move along to the element of Earth, which is represented by the Pentacle. So the Pentacles can represent material wealth, even spiritual wealth. All right, what is happening in the element of Earth, love? The Wheel of Fortune. Okay. So, for many of us, success is right around the corner. Again, this is it's actually a very positive reading, as long as we're willing to do the work, as long as we're willing to really ask ourselves those hard questions then success is right there. It's waiting for us. Okay, I'm really curious to see what the outcome and advice of this is. What is your advice? Okay, South Node in Aquarius in the 10th house. Oh, that's very interesting. Okay, let's line this up and let's redo. All right, 6. Okay. Yeah, that's actually very favorable. So with that South Node, it's saying as we look to the past, we were very successful, maybe earlier in life, maybe in past lives. We were very successful. We had everything that we needed. And with that Aquarius and Capricorn energy mixed in with that, it's also saying, that the Capricorn influence having to represent our careers and status, it's saying, yeah, you were very successful at one point. Yes, you did feel fulfilled at one point. And that Aquarius, that middle decan of Aquarius, that is the Lord of earned success. And so we have a lot of status, and we have a lot of success. We have a lot of things which we earned. We worked towards that. We claimed it. We did ask ourselves those questions in the past. You see, sometimes when we're too successful, we have a tendency to become complacent, and it's in that comfort and it's in that complacency that allows us to get to the point to where we're not successful anymore. We become too used to what we have, and then we kind of reach this point where essentially we begin to either take what we have for granted, or we begin to become dissatisfied with what we have. And it's not really that where we're at is necessarily a bad place. It's that we stopped asking those questions. We stopped updating ourselves. We stopped doing those things which fulfilled us at one point. And what this is saying is, remember that past energy. Remember how you did earn that success. Remember how at one point we did ask ourselves those questions, and it was in that sort of discontent mind frame. It was there that we actually grew. And again, it all leads back to what the Spirit is saying. So ask ourselves those questions again and learn what is holding us back from moving on. Okay, excellent. We're going to end with the last element, which is the element of water, represented by the cups. So the element of water has to deal with our intuition. It has to deal with our emotions. So what is happening in the element of water? Okay, love, what is your wisdom? The inverted Queen of Swords. Okay. Yeah, that would make sense. So we have essentially a lot of antagonism and a lot of discontent within our emotion and our intuitive areas. On an emotional level, we are probably exceedingly hypercritical of ourselves, and nothing just feels right. It's like no matter what we do, what we say, it's just all for naught. And again, a lot of this is tied in with, if we were to tie it back in with family and our close interpersonal relationships, and again, tying it back in with, especially right here, this Gemini reading, I would say yes, our own pride is keeping us from releasing that antagonistic energy. I mean, this is essentially suggesting that we are our own worst enemies. We are the ones who are basically, we are our own worst enemy. And no matter what we may think or do, ultimately you can't outrun the person who's looking back at you in the mirror. And that's a very hard lesson to learn. But again, so with the Lord of Sorrow being ruled by Saturn, and also with the Eight of Cups being ruled by Saturn too, there's a lot of Saturnian energy. There's a lot of lessons to be learned, and especially with Saturn ruling the Eight of Cups in the spirit energy. And that again is the overall direction of the reading. It's saying, yes, there are many things that we need to learn about ourselves in order to get rid of this antagonistic energy. So, let's see, what is the advice? Alright, we have Jupiter in Taurus in the 12th house. Okay. Let me move these out of the way. And let's re-roll for the decan. 3, okay. First decan of Taurus, alright. Wow, okay. So, yeah, that first decan of Taurus is the Lord of Material Trouble. It's essentially the tarot card, the Five of Pentacles, where the people are basically out in the snow, and they're down and out. It has to relate to poverty. And it could suggest, well, it's definitely suggesting here, especially being in the 12th house ruled by Pisces, it's suggesting that we are destitute on a spiritual level right now. And of course, with the cups, the water energy influencing that, it's spiritual and emotional. We feel emotionally devoid and we feel antagonistic to ourselves because we need to make amends with spirit. And again, that Jupiter energy right there is telling us to expand upon those lessons. It's telling us to expand upon the lessons of mysticism, expand upon the lessons of the 12th house. Go back and reevaluate what is happening within ourselves on a spiritual level. The 12th house is about reckoning, and you can never, again, like I was saying earlier, you can never outrun yourself. At some point, we have to stop. We have to look at ourselves in the mirror and ask ourselves those hard and honest questions. What is happening within my internal world to allow my external world, the world with my family, the world of communicating with others, what is happening internally to affect the external world so drastically and so hard. Yeah, excellent. Okay, let's see. I'm just checking for to see if any aspects are conjunct or inconjunct. Well, there's nothing conjunct here. Yes, okay, right there. I knew there was something waiting for us. So between the element of earth and the element of fire, we have an inconjunction. And that would also make a lot of sense too, because here we have, okay, we were very successful in the past, and yet all this success in the past, all this knowledge and clarity that we once had, has gotten to a point to where we can no longer relate to those around us. Now, on one sense, you could probably say, well, maybe we had outgrown the people around us. And that could also be a very strong possibility. But the bottom line is that if it is causing this inverted Queen of Swords energy happening, if it is causing us to feel horrible about ourselves on an emotional level, then perhaps it's not just about outgrowing people. Perhaps maybe there are a lot of things which still need to be addressed. And ultimately here, it's saying with this inverted Eight of Cups, it's that refusal to move on as well. So sometimes our success can be our downfall. Sometimes we can have so much going for us that we forget to improve ourselves. And this would definitely suggest that with that in conjunction. I would say if these were a bit more positive, then perhaps this was outgrowing people. But it's not quite there yet. It's saying that there are still some lessons to learn. Maybe we could have been horrible to get what we wanted, to experience that success. And now with this 12th house energy coming up, there's that reckoning that's happening. We need to go back and look at ourselves and say, hey, maybe I wasn't always the hero of my story. Maybe I was a villain in another person's story. Okay. And again, it's with coming to this realization, coming to this reckoning, all of it, it's not that we're bad people. It's just recognizing those things within ourselves to help us move on. And yeah, this makes a lot more sense now, especially with the other elements that have come out, is that again, we were holding ourselves back. We need to reconcile essentially with ourselves to be able to move forward. And it's only through reconciling with ourselves that we will become that Lord of perfected success, that we will recognize our joy and our happiness and feeling fulfilled, feeling content for once in our lives. So yeah, a very straightforward reading, a very introspective reading, and I think everything in this reading is actually pretty clear with what needs to be done. So yeah, try not to again, the important thing here too is also not really try not to beat oneself up. You know, it's life just happens to us sometimes, and many times it's not until years later when we actually have a chance to kind of process and reflect on things do we realize, wow, you know, I did some stuff, I said some stuff. So excuse me. So the point is really to take it easy. Don't be too hard on yourself. Being able to forgive ourselves and being able to move on or being able to forgive ourselves is one of also the first steps in being able to move on. Okay. Well, I think that's good enough for now. So if you've resonated with today's reading, feel free to leave a comment and let us know how you've resonated with today's reading. Again, thank you for joining us today, and may Hecate illuminate your path and guide you at the crossroads.